Hello and good afternoon everyone. I welcome the members to this meeting of the Economy, Infrastructure and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee today, Thursday the 16th of April 2026 at 2 p.m. I invite Jacob to go through any apologies received.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome you to your place and good afternoon to committee. I've received no apologies.
Are there any declarations of interest regarding any item on today's agenda? In terms of the minutes, I resolve that the minutes of the last meeting held on Wednesday, the 11th of February 2026, to be confirmed as correct and signed by the Chair. This is including any actions on the work current order. I invite someone to move this motion.
I move that, Chair.
Yep. And second, thank you. Just before I move on to item 4, I wanted to set the tone for today's session. Today, the committee moves from simply receiving reports to actively investigating the outcomes. We're here as a critical friend to the Cabinet to ensure the policies and evidence are led, delivering real-world results. I ask all members today just to keep their inquiries specific and also the outcomes focused. Based on the agenda, 4 items today, lots to go through, and we'll be tracking commitments throughout the day to make sure that these are formally recorded on the recommendations tracker. So moving on to item 4 today, economic strategy. Just want to welcome both Councillor Murray, Leader of the Council, and also Councillor Hall. First of all, just wanted to congratulate Councillor Hall on your new appointment to the Cabinet, and from me personally and the committee, congratulations. Item 4 is to obviously review the economic strategy. We'll look towards yourself, Councillor Hall, to introduce the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's with great pleasure I give this report, and here we go. The report provides the committee with the opportunity to consider and comment on the draft of our new economic strategy, which sets out our vision, ambitions and priorities for supporting the growth of the Staffordshire economy in the coming years. Over the last couple of decades, and through very challenging national and global conditions, Staffordshire's economy has shown a strong ability to adapt and recover. While our economy is now more resilient than in the past, this strategy is more about looking forward and being clear about how we will continue to support sustainable growth, prosperity and opportunity for our residents and businesses. It is also important to note how this strategy builds on and differs from the previous version. While earlier strategies were necessarily focused on responding to economic shocks and maintaining resilience, this strategy is more clearly outcome-focused and future-looking. It places much greater emphasis on proactive place promotion and investment attraction, provides a more concise and deliverable set of priorities, and brings areas such as rural enterprise and innovation more firmly into the core framework rather than being considered as a separate issue. Overall, it offers clear articulation of where we want to focus our collective effort in order to support long-term growth across all parts of Staffordshire. The strategy sets out 5 clear priorities: place promotion and investment attraction, vibrant towns and the visitor economy, infrastructure and corridor growth, talent, skills and inclusive growth, and finally, enterprise and innovation in both urban and rural areas. These priorities reflect where we believe the County Council can have the greatest impact, working in partnership with others and aligning closely with our wider strategic plan. Delivery of the strategy will depend on a mix of projects and programmes already underway, alongside new interventions as opportunities emerge. We are clear that the County Council cannot deliver this alone, and the strategy therefore places strong emphasis on partnership working with our businesses and local and national partners. At a time when national growth funding is increasingly channeled through devolved arrangements, the strategy also provides a clear and consistent basis for us to advocate strongly for Staffordshire, making the case for fair funding and investment while continuing to lead and collaborate locally whenever possible. Scrutiny has a vital role to play in helping to shape and strengthen this work. I'm keen to hear the committee's views on the overall direction of the strategy, including whether there are specific interventions or areas of focus that members believe would help support successful delivery. We are also proposing to return to this committee with regular updates to support ongoing scrutiny of progress over the life of this strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hall, for that report and presentation. Just before, I just want to make sure we've covered all areas, but I will open the floor to any Q&A now to Councillor Hall or Councillor Murray or any of the officers. Thank you. Councillor Tagg. Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering how do we work with Stoke in this? Do we have a joint plan, or is this just our plan and they have their own separate plan and we don't work together, or are we going to rectify that?
Well, I'll let Matt go into the details in a second, but I mean, what I will say is in my short time in this position already, I've seen quite a lot of cooperation with Stoke already on training and a whole host of issues. So I can't really, I'm not in a position to talk about the detail of that. I'll let Matt contribute. Thank you.
Yeah, afternoon all. So those of you who don't know me, so I'm Matt Shufflebotham. I lead on quite a lot of our economic policy type work. I think I'm probably aware of quite a few of you. You've seen me in the past, but that's who I am. So just in terms of that question, so yeah, absolutely, this is our strategy. So this is a county council strategy, and I think that we've had a county council strategy now for quite a few years, and that's been due to the fact that we won't be clear in terms of what the priorities are for the county council. Now, that doesn't mean that we limit ourselves in terms of working with other areas, so absolutely we work very closely with Stoke and a lot of the surrounding areas too. So one of the other things just to be aware of at the moment is that we are just starting to embark on the creation of a local growth plan with Stoke-on-Trent. Now, that's a government programme that will be ultimately a responsibility for something called the Strategic Authority going forward. So that ties into quite a bit of the local government reorganisation type work. But yeah, absolutely we work with Stoke. This is just though about getting our position right.
Thank you, Matthew, for that context. Councillor Tagg.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to in your position as Chair. I think it's the first meeting, isn't it? Yes, well done as well. And also to the portfolio holder as well in his position. Wish him the best for his period. I think really good strategy to have updated this one. And I think the portfolio holder said at the beginning that previous strategies were based on dealing with shocks. I think we're probably on the verge of another economic shock, aren't we, with what's going on in the Middle East, etc. So my question to the portfolio holder, first one, is what sort of contingency plans are you making for Staffordshire in relation to the potential fuel crisis and other things? We are a logistics county, aren't we? We have a road network that comes through the county, etc. And a lot of jobs are based around logistics, deliveries, and using those networks. So that's the first question. Second point is town centres. Really pleased to see that's focused in here. I've just come from Newcastle, where we've done the topping off ceremony for the first of the 3 developments in the town centre, Astley Place, which of course, if members aren't aware, we've got 3 massive developments taking place in and around the town centre to get people living, working and enjoying the town centre again, lifting the whole town centre, hundreds of people potentially living and working again in our town centre. So I'm aware, and I'm sure the portfolio holder and certainly the leader will be aware, is that that is based on government funding. It's also been supplemented by the local borough council, Newcastle Borough Council, to the tune of 80 million. But it started with levelling up funding, which is what we had from the Boris Johnson government up until 2022. That tap has been turned off now. So obviously the borough councils and the districts are looking to ways to fund schemes. What is the county council considering doing to help town centres to regenerate more and also to bring in that funding, which will help us to even go even further in our town centres to get them where we want them to be in this report, which I think is a very good report. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I will actually hand that over to Martin, who's got far more to say on this than me.
We do have, we had several funds recently granted under the Conservatives, obviously the Town Centre and Levelling Up funds. Under Labour, all these different funds were piled into one pot to be used as the local government, districts and boroughs saw fit. And we have quite a few town centres. Newcastle is actually probably the furthest ahead in all of Staffordshire in their development scheme. There's some great schemes in there with, I must add, the first in the country turning a concrete car park, multi-storey car park, into a residential, repurposing to residential. First in the country to do that. So some fantastic work there. Staffordshire Moorlands has several smaller projects. Burton is now pushing forward for their town centre regeneration, expanding further across East Staffordshire as well, but the big focus on Burton. Cannock Town Centre is at the moment still to be fully developed and full plan put forward. Land has been acquired, so we have that development coming over the next few years. The same for Stafford. If you go around, you'll see the plots of land that some already being demolished, others to be ready. So the development programme is going on through now for the next 5 to 10 years before full completion for our town centres. It's how we continue to promote and support them. We are a logistics county by businesses that are here and by workers that use and travel through our networks, hence the roads having such a high volume of traffic. The fuel crisis we have is one of our own making, unfortunately, but it affects every single person. It comes down to the price of your butter from your supermarket shelf to the cost of transporting our goods, travelling to work. It is something that sits within central government and far beyond the remit of this council. Our town centre developments primarily and does help within that place promotion and investment attraction. It really helps within that people know that Staffordshire exists, that branding of one county, one area. When I always have said Staffordshire, I always included Stoke-on-Trent. We are Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, after all, within many of our partnership groups, and rightly so. As we move forward into devolution, this will become even more so important. And that place branding that will now allow that investment to come through and fill these new buildings within all of our town centres comes through people knowing that Staffordshire is a place to come. Our visitor numbers are increasing. Our external visitors, our tourism is increasing. That means more people are seeing our county once again. And that brings wealth, it brings worth, it brings investment. It's a key point. And I would like to finish off with one big point that I really do hope that Newcastle wins Town of Culture, and it is something I think we can all get behind to promote, because it's those actions, those awards that promote the whole county as well as just the one town. And that, again, brings investment, encourages our towns across the whole area, whether it be a small village to a large town or a city, to boom, to flourish, to grow. It's in there. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've just had a slight link to that on the fuel. I mean, what Staffordshire does get directly impacted, and almost probably to a bigger extent than transportation, is home fuel oil, and of course the government have given support for that, and we're going to be distributing that.
It's already started.
It's already started. So the crisis fund is going out there. So that is something where we have started to act on the increase of the price of fuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall and Councillor Murray. Over to Councillor Peddington. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the community impact assessment flagged up a risk of uneven economic benefit across districts. And I was just wondering, how will equitable outcomes across districts be evidenced in the 6 monthly updates? Thank you.
I'll pass that over to Matt, thanks.
Yeah, I think with that issue, that's one of those things that we just keep constantly monitored. So if you don't already receive it, then you can receive our monthly economic bulletin. So our economic bulletin is probably the key document that we look at, just ensuring that we're keeping an eye on what's going on across the county. It's primarily based on unemployment figures, but it's that first sight of issues, really, that document. And so, you know, we absolutely keep a close eye on the impact across the county in terms of particularly things like shocks, economic shocks. It's one of those issues where, you know, we do know obviously that some areas do better than others. We still have areas that are deprived, and those issues have to get tackled. I think that's probably a key part of the strategy. Yeah, it's one of those things that we have to keep monitored, essentially.
Thank you,
Can I expand on that a little?
Councillor Murray.
Our economic report that comes out throughout the year are fantastic. It also comes out on our Stafford means business every month within Cabinet. The claimant count number that we have, certainly with the youth claimant counts, unemployment levels, is a very good leading indicator to where areas will suffer now or in the future. As we do see, that is area-led, so we can actually see where that is when you deep down. We have seen a slight higher increase within youth unemployment in the south of the county compared to that of the north. So that is how we can see the difference in the area specifically. One of the big points where we can make a huge impact in that is within our education and skill structure. That fits within our colleges and further education facilities. We are bidding right now to expand our colleges that are all beyond capacity. And this, because we can see where the extra training is needed, where people are without work and where the apprenticeships within the Ignite programme or other similar ones that we have, we can then leave focus. That data we have updated monthly and can show us an area by area impact, and now we can focus and have a look where extra support may be needed.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Bentley, please.
Thank you for the report. Very good. Just a little one I'd like to just, while we've got the officers in the room, to have a consider. We mentioned the A50, the A500. We at Cheadle, we like the north of the county, are very connected. In fact, we're probably the closest to Stoke-on-Trent. And if you're coming from the north, you come down the A500, you get on the A50, then you get off. And you get on a road called Cheadle Road. It's one of the notoriously worst roads in the area. That is having some work done, but I don't think it's substantial work. And I was wondering if we could just give it a little bit of a thought, because most people in this room probably travel to my direction, up bank. But if you're coming from the north, travelling down bank, you would do that. You go down the A500, you get on the A50, you get off on what we call your Toxteth roundabout, which is the roundabout that most people tip the wagons over on. Then you go down a road called the Drake at Level, and then at the end of that it says turn left onto Cheadle Road, and that's where all the Alton Towers visitors are directed. And not only is it just the Alton Towers, that is our industrial area of the town. So it does lend itself to have some investment or looked at, because I've read somewhere that some of the little areas should be able to piggyback on the back of some of these investments. I've mentioned it to Martin in the past, haven't I? And it just mentions here the A50, A500, Central Edge, South Staffordshire. Well, we're a bit more northern. And we just finish off with, we're the only town in the Moorlands with a train station in Blythe Bridge that is slightly unutilised. So we've got a little drop-off pickup bus train station in Blythe Bridge that I think could be used a little bit more if the bus is connected to it, and then it'd take all the Moorlands children to the local colleges or down. So I'd just like somebody to give me a bit of time and maybe visit me and Sue in Cheadle and have a bit of a whiz around, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I do know the road. I've been up it. You turn left by the pub. And there's quite a lot of industry along there as well, just past Draycott Sports. Yeah, and it is a cut through to Alton Towers. I think, I mean, my advice to you on that, Gary, if you were to start building a case, is probably to put a traffic survey of some sort down there and see how many cars actually are used. And you can take that from your DHP fund.
Well, you're very lucky. We had a traffic survey done only 2 weeks ago. So we're there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hall and Bentley. Just had a question myself. Staffordshire is fortunate to have the trailblazers like JCB. What specific strategy is in place to act as a magnet for a secondary supply chain for businesses, rather than simply relying on the JCB effect in Staffordshire as a passively effect? Furthermore, will the Cabinet commit to subscribing to a commercial intelligence like the Estate Gazette to better track the property market's trends for inward investments?
Thanks for that, Andy. I mean, JCB employ 7,500, something like that, people in Staffordshire. And I think I was at this meeting when I was sitting over there once, and I was saying about it's a lot easier to get companies who are here or who are supplying companies who are here to grow rather than getting new businesses in. So, I mean, that's what you're, I think, fundamentally saying. Now, we talk about JCB in general. We talked about the A5500 program and the McDonald's roundabout, as it's known. I'm sure it's got a better name than that, or a. But that's a huge bottleneck, and actually something that JCB have said is stopping them investing. But so what we'd like to do as part of that A5500 is obviously to make that traffic flow better. It's a huge investment. It's part of the plan, and then obviously along that corridor that will naturally encourage businesses to set up, because at one end you've got East Midlands Airport, you've got the M1, and you've got the huge rail hub as well, and then at the other end you'll have M6, so you can actually travel down the A500 and get to the I-54 and the new rail hub there at four crosses near the other side of Penkridge. So I think it's about developing that network to make it easy to get around. So I think that's part of what we're doing. Of course, the skills side of things as well is something I think we've just had a huge, and I think we'll probably go on to it at my next session. A huge investment, I believe, in Newcastle and Stafford College regarding technical skills, which, anybody who knows JCB, that's what they really like. Going to the second point of your question, for all I know, we may already subscribe to the Estate Gazette, but I don't know. We do have a number of business intelligence tools. I think Matt will be best placed on the detail. That's his day-to-day job. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the Estate Gazette specifically, not sure about that, if I'm being perfectly honest. But we do absolutely subscribe to those types of products that enable us to keep a sight on what's happening in the market. I think the one that we look at the moment, more so than anything else, something called CoStar. I won't go into a huge amount of detail on what that is, because I'll bore everyone silly. But it's essentially monitoring that property market, and that's a key part of our inward investment function. So I think in terms of those 6 monthly updates going forward, what we do with regards to inward investment, that'll be a key feature in terms of those reports. So I would expect something to be included on that 6 months from now.
Thank you, Matthew, and Councillor Hall. Councillor Murray.
I have to give a shout out. I mean, we always mention JCB and the amazing company it is, but Staffordshire has far many huge companies as well, as about 80% are small SMEs and smaller companies that power our economy in Staffordshire. To list all those, we'd be here for several days. But we have Bet365. We have Busy Bees, and it's in Burntwood, a nursery. That has 12,800 employees in it. Voyager Care, Healthcare Pone, Jaguar Land Rover, Michelin, Pirelli, Perkins Engineering, Wedgwood, of course, Pets at Home, Amazon, Screwfix, Molson Coors in Burton, Caterpillar is in Cannock. People forget, we have Moog Aerospace on the I-54, on our Central Edge programme. We have global blue chip companies filling and employing people throughout the whole of Staffordshire. It's a catalogue of greatness we need to be shouting out all these names all the time. As great as our nice yellow digger is, we have many, many more companies in our county that's powering this country. We should acknowledge every single one of them, and all our SMEs and micro businesses that power this nation.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. It's absolutely fantastic to see we're focusing on the anchor companies and also the investment, inward investment. Before I just summarise, just wanted to check if there are any other questions for this item. Yeah, Councillor Griffith.
Yes, it's to do with innovation, and I'm just kind of asking really, but is there anything we can do as a county to encourage, perhaps like just as an example, like Keele University to start investigating these micro-reactors? They do exist, well, they already exist because they exist in aircraft carriers and submarines, but yeah, bringing nuclear power but on a smaller, a much smaller scale.
Martin's an expert on Keele University, but I know quite a lot about Rolls-Royce. Unfortunately, it's on the wrong side of the border of Staffordshire, who are heavily involved in that technology. But I'm sure, well, I know that they employ a lot of people from Staffordshire actually in there as well. But I'll hand that over to Martin for the Keele, I think, aspect.
It is. It's future energy. It's the future of energy. We've been running off a powered energy system that's quite a couple of hundred years old at least now. Combustion, but we now have new future energies coming on through, and Keele is absolutely leading the world. Right now, starting in January, Keele University is a global study of the full system of hydrogen, that is production, storage and delivery to small vehicles. That study is being done at Keele in Staffordshire, global study, production right now. You forget Michelin over there as well, huge into the hydrogen sector. And so is JCB. And they're looking to expand again to hydrogen. Now, nuclear modulars can be a great asset, and maybe in the future something may come forward for this county. We know it's just starting in Anglesey in Wales right now, with the first ones for this country. Who knows what the future will bring? But there again, there is more than just one form of energy. Staffordshire is leading the way on hydrogen. That's something we should shout out again. And we do work in direct partnerships with Keele and shout them out all the time, and they shout out this county a lot.
Thanks, Councillor Murray. As a wrap up then, this item, I think we've resolved an awful lot within the report, focusing on town centres, developments, some excellent projects progressing, specifically around logistics. Great to hear Stoke's part of the scope. And also that we're focusing on the Crisis Fund Ignite programme appropriately. In terms of this committee, I'll go through and recommend that the committee invite the leader and cabinet member, which I think we've already focused on with the economies of the skills, bringing an update back to this committee and deliver a strategy to the committee for scrutiny for every 6 months. Can I ask someone to move this motion?
Yeah, I'll move it.
Thank you. And a second. Thank you. Excellent. Moving on to item 5. No moving around too much there. So item 5 covers young people not in education, employment or training, and apprenticeships, NEETs. I invite Councillor Hall to present the report. Thank you.
Hello again. Thank you for the opportunity to present this important update on young people's participation in education, employment and training across the county. I want to begin by reaffirming our statutory responsibility as a county council. We are legally required to support all young people aged 13 to 19 and those up to 25 with an education, health and care plan to engage in educational training and to ensure that we have sufficient post-16 provision in place to meet their needs. This responsibility is becoming increasingly challenging. Our 16 to 18 cohort has grown steadily over the past 5 years and is projected to continue rising until at least 2029. This growth places pressure on learning providers, reduces flexibility in the system and makes it harder for us to secure the right opportunities for every young person. Our current NEET position is, as of December 2025, Staffordshire's combined NEET and not known rate stands at 6.2%, representing 1,175 young people. This places us marginally below the England average of 6.3% and the West Midlands figure of 6.4%. Our not known rate is comparatively low, and that reflects the strength of our tracking and intelligence systems. However, we must also be candid. NEET levels have risen since 2021. This is due to several factors: lingering post-pandemic impacts, an increase in young people leaving provision early, and a shortage of an appropriate training and learning option in some parts of the county. Overall participation in learning is 90.6%, which is slightly below the England average of 91.7%. However, a positive note is that the apprenticeship participation in Staffordshire is at 5.3%, notably higher than the national average of 3.2%. Members will also be aware that the reasons young people become NEET are often complex and multi-layered. Key drivers we are seeing locally are increasing challenges with mental health and emotional readiness, which limit engagement. Continued growth in elective home education, creating difficulties when young people attempt to return to structured learning. Rising numbers of early leavers from post-16 provision and young people taking up employment without training, which counts as non-participation. Barriers to accessing apprenticeships stemming from lower prior attainment, mental health issues and concerns about affordability, and a reduced availability of flexible mid-year training provision, meaning that when young people disengage, there are fewer opportunities to re-enter quickly. These factors combine to create heightened NEET risk at a time when the labour market is changing rapidly. Despite these challenges, Staffordshire continues to take a proactive and targeted action. Our careers and participation service continues to deliver. Statutory tracking and reported support, risk of NEET identification work with Year 10 and Year 11 pupils, also known as RONI, transition mentoring, intensive engagement for young people who are NEET. Our New Avenues programme is also making a demonstrable difference, providing personalised employability and confidence building support. We are seeing clear progression into education, training or employment as a direct result of that. Through the Careers Hub in Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, we continue to strengthen the quality of careers education using the Gatsby benchmarks, expanding employer engagement and promoting all available pathways, including apprenticeships. The Careers Observatory model is giving young people structured workplace experiences from Year 7 onwards, helping to build aspirational and readiness far earlier. We have also funded Future Ready fund investment, which is helping disadvantaged pupils access sustained, meaningful encounters with employers. To address the supply changes in the system, we've completed a review of 16 to 18 provision in partnership with further education colleges. We are also lobbying government strongly for investment in further education estate and additional places. We've submitted a market gap application to the Department of Education to secure additional training provider capacity. And Chair, it is essential that we recognise that the whole system challenge, reducing NEET numbers, improving workplace readiness, cannot be achieved by the Council alone. It relies on alignment between schools, colleges, employers, training providers and national policy. Looking ahead, we need to ensure that Staffordshire is fully prepared for the policy changes expected within the forthcoming post-16 education and skills white paper. Proposals such as guaranteed college places, a youth guarantee, youth hubs and enhanced local oversight could reshape the system, and we must also position to take advantage of these changes. So to conclude, Chair, I invite the committee to consider the challenges outlined today and the actions currently underway, make any further recommendation for interventions or areas of work that members feel should be explored, support the proposal that I, as Cabinet Member for Economy and Skills, provide an annual update to this committee on our NEET position and young people's participation outcomes. I think really from the length of this report and the number of different programmes, it shows really how strongly the Council feels about this, and I do personally. So thank you, Chair, and I welcome members' questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hall. In terms of this being a critical hotspot, the data highlights severe problems affecting Cannock and Tamworth. Geographically targeting interventions, what are we doing to employ or deploy there? And secondly, has it been noted around the working extensively with the DWP can be problematic? What has been done around an executive level to resolve these bottlenecks so the young people aren't left for apprenticeship placements? And I think what I'd focus on there is the challenges and the gap between the national minimum wage and also the apprenticeship rates as that continues being set by government.
Okay, there's a few things I think in that question. I mean, I discussed actually the challenges around apprenticeships, and we've had quite a few discussions over the last few days about the cost of them actually to employers, and I firsthand have been involved in that, and it's prohibitive. And even concern is that even the £3,000 that's being as an enticement doesn't really entice, shall we say. So yes, it's a big challenge. We're talking about probably Cannock and Tamworth as targeted areas where we've got specific problems and issues. But we do have a targeted approach rather than a uniform one. So focusing on career support, skills interventions, etc., we do that where the need's the greatest. And just moving on to the DWP question, and I'll probably let Tony or Alison say a few things because they are super experts. At an executive level, I think we're maintaining active engagement with those partners to address the barriers and improve the effectiveness of that pathway. So I would actually like to invite Alison to say something.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Just if you don't know me, I'm Anthony Baines, Assistant Director for Skills and Employability, and this is part of my overarching portfolio. I think it's just on the sort of strategic response you'll see in the report, and as Councillor Hall referred to, the work we've been doing around 16 to 18 proficiency and sufficiency in the county, and the sort of different choices young people are making. You'll see the sort of growth in young people going into jobs without training. We'll see much more pressure in the college system as young people pursue technical and vocational routeways and an earlier career, and perhaps not considering university, but more about a career in work, which is creating a lot of competition for apprenticeship places as well. And as we've mentioned, there's a lot of pressure on the costs of that as well now that we're getting feedback from employers around the ability to offer apprenticeship places. And so this work we've done around sufficiency in partnership with the colleges puts together some long-term asks of the government. We've identified the additional places that we need over the next 10 years. We've got an ask of over £100 million of investment to meet that need, and it's meeting need from the young person's aspiration in terms of the career they want to follow, but also in terms of meeting the employer's need around key skills and key priorities in some of our most important sectors, manufacturing, engineering, automotive, construction, digital, and health and care. And so that's really important to the future economy, that we see that increased capacity to sustain that growth in the local economy. But also what we have seen as well, since the pandemic in particular, a decline in the more flexible provision for people to move when they perhaps change their mind or change courses, or they can't get in the right course at the college. And college isn't always the right place for every young person to go to as well. So that ask and that market gap application seeks several £1 million worth of revenue funding to provide that flexible provision. So if we are successful securing that investment, then hopefully we are able to meet both the economic needs and the needs and aspirations of our young people. And I think if you've not seen recently, we had some good news that Newcastle and Stafford College has secured £10 million worth of capital investments to create a technical excellence centre in Stafford, with a further £10 million investment over the next couple of years to increase our ability to meet the needs of that sector and build on the already investment we've seen in the IoT. So over the next few years, if we secure that investment, we can continue to meet that needs. But in the shorter term, some of the programmes you'll have seen reference, and Alison will talk about, and probably with Sean, about the targets and how we, on a day-to-day basis, are offering that operational support to young people who are seeking a place in education and training.
Thank you, Anthony. And over to Alison.
Good afternoon. My name's Alison Matthews. I'm Head of 16 to 18 Participation and Skills. I'm joined by two colleagues in my team who specialise, Head of the Careers and Participation Service, Sean, and also Paul Williams from the Careers Hub. As far as the targeting aspect of your question, the New Avenues programme that Councillor Hall referred to, we have targeted that at specific areas where we'd got higher need, but also based on where we were able to encourage young people to participate in that as well. So we've been quite responsive. So where we can pull a group of young people together to participate in that, we'll then find a location and to deliver that. And also from the Careers Hub perspective, they're working with practically all of our schools across the county around that improving the careers education provision, and a number of their projects are focused on disadvantaged groups, and in particular those that are likely to have higher numbers of young people at risk of becoming NEET post-16.
Okay, thanks for that, Alison. Just for my knowledge, really, and the committee's knowledge, just be interesting to see, obviously, apprenticeships are being encouraged. We want to promote apprenticeships in Staffordshire. How are we kind of targeting and also benchmarking between 16 and 18 specifically over the next 2 or 3 years, and how do we factor that performance in? Are we measuring that year on year, or is it quarter by quarter?
We're able to measure on a monthly basis how many young people we have 16 to 18 participating in apprenticeships. So we track those young people, but they have sort of a currency period. So we would follow them up after a certain length of time to check that they are still in that apprenticeship. So we're able to do that, and we also have access to DFE information. It's usually on quite a lagged basis, though, that enables us again to see the number of residents we've got accessing apprenticeships across the area as well.
Thank you, Alison. Councillor Miners.
Thanks. I'm interested to see, because we mentioned, I think, Stafford College over capacity on technical apprenticeships and getting people back to work in carpentry, electrics, etc. Obviously, when those students go on to get work and employment in Staffordshire, do you ever go out to the businesses and find out from them how the students were doing? Were they prepped? Would they like you to change the course and focus on particular areas? Or how do you benchmark that? Thanks.
We don't specifically ask for feedback around the post-16 courses, so the providers, the colleges or the training providers would seek that direct feedback. Paul's team in the Careers Hub do they work directly with employers as well, linking them with schools, and so have done pieces of work around what skills they value most in young people and the things that are missing that can then be worked upon from a school perspective to prepare young people to be more effective when they start work.
Thank you, Alison. Back over to Anthony.
Yeah, just in terms of the sort of wider apprenticeship, obviously the colleges and providers, they will have their own measures of employer satisfaction that they follow up, and we know from sort of national and HMRC data that students leaving college and apprenticeships have a higher employment rate post-course. So overarching, when we're compared to other areas, our colleges do better at getting young people into employment when they finish their course of study. So as a top line measure, obviously that destination is recorded there. But we do work with something called the Staffordshire Ladder for Apprenticeships, where we promote apprenticeship opportunities to businesses. So we had over 400 apprenticeship opportunities generated last year through that ladder. And that ladder sort of works in tandem with the media to promote apprenticeship opportunities to SMEs, so particularly in the Express and Star and Reach. There's weekly features that showcase employers who work to recruit and take on apprentices. And then we have our own activities that promote. We work with the Apprenticeship Ambassador Network, which is people from businesses who go around and promote apprenticeships, and apprentices themselves who go back to school to promote apprentices as well. So there's a wide range of activities, but, promoting apprenticeships and getting feedback from businesses on the success of them.
Thanks, Anthony. Councillor Baker. Oh, Councillor Murray, sorry.
Yes, one of the apprenticeships, last year I was pleased, one of my early roles was to do the apprenticeship awards. We gave out hundreds, and I do mean hundreds of apprenticeship awards. Staffordshire County Council is a leader in this, in the men's apprenticeships, the likes of the JCB. We all do it. People like Caterpillar, they have their own apprenticeships college, and they bring apprenticeships on. I'm looking forward to those using more within Staffordshire in the future now. So we do have a great success rate within our apprenticeship schemes. I think here, I'll have to check that figure, but 74,000 people started an apprenticeship in Staffordshire for last year into this one. It's the data I have on there. I mean, it's a huge number to know the success that we have on there. With that college capacity, to Councillor Minor's point, a lot of our capacity is now being filled up with basic provision as well. Those with to pick up the lower education, level 3, 4, standard English and maths, and this is putting a heavy strain on our colleges. It is why it is so important, again, and I mentioned it earlier, but we are pushing now for government for a huge expansion programme to expand our colleges throughout the whole of this county. We're looking for just shy of 104 million for this. It's a very large project. Our colleges are already full. It shows the demand is there, that our students love our colleges. I visited them all. I went around to quite a lot of businesses and I spoke to them about their apprenticeships and the demands. Do they need extra courses? And those that do had already had conversations with our colleges. The links are already there and in existence, and that gave me great comfort in the work these officers had all been doing over these years and all this year. The connection, the base for this had been there. these extra programs we have coming up now through the Ignite Connect to Work, through our Careers Hub website, which is an amazing website, by the way. It's a one-click stop for no matter where you are on your educational career point. Our website is amazing. You can click on there and it will send you to where you need to go. It's a fantastic site that needs to be highlighted and sent for more people to understand. The provision is there, the demand is there. We just need to expand to fulfill the demand that we have. It is good. It's good news. We've got great growth prospects. And I honestly believe we will out-deliver on this. We're doing really well on it.
Thanks, Councillor Murray. Councillor Baker, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the report. I just have a question about when we do contact NEETs, what do we do about the ones who are non-responsive and we try and contact them and nothing's happening? What's the process after them? If you could go through that, please.
Whoops. Yeah, that's increasingly common. What we tend to find now is that people are far more reluctant to answer phones than they used to be. What we try to do is engage them as best we can by phone. We have a process where we ring a number of times in different times of the day, after which we will send a text or a number of texts. We'll then send a letter, and ultimately we home visit young people. What we do in terms of responses we get from young people is we basically rag rate them in terms of their readiness to progress with or without our support. So we tend to have a green group of young people who are NEET, who we think we can work with proactively over a short period of time and move into employment, education or training. We've got an amber group who will move but only with quite a bit of support. There's a red group who need a lot of support before they can move. And then effectively we have what we call a purple group, and it's effectively people who just flatly refuse to work with us or don't respond. And what we do with that group largely is leave them. We contact them periodically. Alison mentioned something called currency. So every situation that a young person goes into has got a currency period. If a young person's NEET, we contact them at least every 3 months. If at some point within that 3 months they indicate that they want our support, then they're re-rated and they go into red, amber, green, and we start to work with them. If another agency, so if through Care Virtual School, pass a young person to us, then that moves them from purple back into red, amber, green. So essentially that's how we do it. We used to historically repeatedly contact people, and we used to do multiple home visits. What we've done is rationalised. So where a young person or parents want to work with us, we work with them proactively. If they're refusing, we kind of put them in a holding category until such time as they want to work with us.
Is it a confidence problem for them, maybe, like if they don't want to contact you, or is there a way that we can help them be confident and, I don't know, cause engagement, like the people who are in the purple category?
I think there's a raft of reasons, really. One of the things we've found, I think it was in the report, and I think it was picked up on in the initial presentation, is we've got an increasing number of young people, I think, who've got mental health issues or don't have the emotional intelligence to perhaps engage. We've always had a small group of young people who found it hard to engage, but that grew massively after the lockdowns. It's not just Staffordshire that this has happened in, it's national. It's been reported pretty widely. Anecdotal conversations with schools, they tell us about how attendance has got significantly worse since COVID, how behaviour has changed significantly, and elective home education as a result pretty much doubled. It's a group of young people I think don't have the skills. What we try to do, Alison mentioned the New Avenues programme, that's something that we're currently recruiting new tutors to deliver. And what we try to do is replicate what was purchased historically through European Social Fund money. So we tend to run a small-scale programme. It's very small groups of young people, between probably 4 and 12 young people, that runs probably for around about 12 weeks, that's quite tailored. And it's focused on building in young people that the basic skills they need to engage in employment, education or training. So it's kind of trying to motivate and give the basic skills and confidence to interact with groups of other people and adults. So that's what we try to build.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, just to add something on. I mean, obviously, I'm on a rapid learning curve at the moment, but I was quite surprised that the number of NEETs who have actually got some mental health issues is either I've heard 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. So it's a significant number, and I think if you look online, I mean, I've even seen up to numbers 44% of people. So it's a big issue. Okay. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you. It's just a clarification, really. So in your presentation, did you say if a 16-year-old goes and becomes a labourer, they still count as NEET? Did I get that right?
No, they are classed as being in employment or training. They don't count towards our participation in learning targets because they're not receiving training.
Okay, so my actual question is to do with home education. One, it's on the rise, and two, in our case studies that we had, every single one of them was home educated. I was just wondering, I don't want to say it's a problem, but is there some kind of correspondence between home education and then ending up as NEET?
Yeah, we do normally find that young people who have been electively home educated are at a higher propensity to become NEET. It doesn't apply to all. There is a programme run by one of the colleges that enables young people who are electively home educated to start doing some learning with the college pre-16, and that's very successful in helping those young people to be prepared to then move on to post-16 education. But then as part of our working with those at risk of NEET, the team do engage via our elective home education team with the families to offer our support to help them to identify what might be suitable to give careers guidance, etc. So some people take it up, but not everybody does.
Thank you for that. Just in the essence of time, Councillor Bentley, last question from the committee, please.
Thank you very much for that. Just a couple of what really. One is, I see that Stafford Moreland's got the highest percentage of non-people being connected with, or whatever the wording is. I was wondering if where you're meeting the Stafford Morelands, is that one of the problems, i.e. we haven't got any youth clubs or anything like that where you actually, there's a designated area to go. So that was the second one I wanted to bring on. Do you think since we've got rid of the youth clubs, which is where the 14s to 16s used to go, but now it's the 16s to 18s, I should say, that would be a brilliant place to interact with them, wouldn't it, and see what they was doing. The career advisor used to turn up at the youth club when I was the guy. So is that something we could consider? And then the other one is, from the highways guys who are here, now we're looking at doing a little bit more stuff in-house. Do we do apprenticeships on our highway departments, in our local departments, because they seem like they're getting a bit long in the tooth, some of them are, so it might be an ideal time to encourage an apprenticeship in the highway departments all across the county. Thank you.
Yeah, just in terms of the sort of first part of the question, the youth service was effectively decommissioned by the county council back in 2013-14. So there were, I think, at that time about 83 youth clubs across the county, and a lot of them were given back to communities or community organisations or schools. in terms of that, and that was part of the sort of shift the county council took at that time under that administration in terms of becoming a commissioning organisation when Entrust was created. And what we had was connection service that had been brought in-house a couple of years earlier, which Sean's been part of on his journeys, and then that service was part of the youth service, and the whole work around youth was sort of part decommissioned and part moved over to Entrust. And since so the last few years we've brought the careers and participation part of that service back in. But like you say, the lack of a strategic overview of those youth services is potentially a gap. So you would have had attached youth workers and things at that time who would be working at weekends and the evenings and engaging with young people. And so there was a bit of a Sean's role and his service where they've got careers advisors and mentors. There would have been then someone who was on the other side supporting the wider development and social support and pastoral support of the young people, and that's sort of disappeared today, and so that's obviously an issue where we see young people potentially with few places to convene and socialise and do in that space, which then if you have that community space, then for us to track and engage them in a different way rather than just a sort of transactional approach through the telephone and door knocking and letters, we're limited on that environment, and so we do use other venues and other places to go and do that. But like you say, it is limited as part of that. I don't know if James wants to come in on the apprenticeship side, but it's just worth saying we do work well, particularly with Amy, around not just apprenticeships, but about work placements, open door and things like that on the highways teams. But I'm sure James can say a bit more about that.
To be honest, Councillor, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say it's a massive priority for us now. There's a huge skills gap across the highways and infrastructure sector, building sector, construction sector, working with Anthony's team. Working with house builders in Staffordshire and with investment and trying to create those opportunities. But certainly with the County Council's highways services in particular, it's a contract requirement now of our strategic partner Amy and their supply chain to see these apprenticeship opportunities. But whilst it's a contract requirement and a desire, it's as much their desire as well, because they've got a huge skills gap that they struggle to recruit to, and we know it's only going to get more challenging as we go forward. So yes, whatever the delivery models look like in the future, apprentices are absolutely critical to it.
I'll just finally, I mean, what you're saying, Councillor Bentley, is absolutely right. I mean, if you go around enough companies, you see that probably on the engineering side, the practical skills, people are generally getting to the end of their careers rather than beginning. So, I mean, so from my priorities sort of moving forward is on that apprenticeship, is on the practical skills. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, strangely, I'm at that end of the spectrum and not particularly in the middle, but then at the other side, I'm very keen on AI as well. So I think, and I think the advent of AI will push a need, or more people to actually have a hands-on approach. So, I mean, even the latest investment that Tony mentioned then is a technical type of investment in technical skills, which I think is so. You're absolutely on the right track there, Councillor Bunty. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the members and officers for the hard work that's gone into this report on NEET. For me, it's great to see that the 16 and 18 cohorts continue to promote, and also there's a provision that we continue to lobby the government. Also, it's interesting to see that we've looked into the mental health challenges and also the youth provision within the Young Hub. Capital investment of 10 million is welcoming, and also a great opportunity in terms of making it a real opportunity for young people to the future of Staffordshire. Good stuff. In terms of recommendations today, just invite the leader and cabinet member for economy and skills to bring an update of the young people not in education, employment or training NEET to this committee for scrutiny annually, please. Can I ask for someone to move this motion? Yeah. Countless.
Could we have less than annual, because it's very important? Could we have 6 monthly or bi-monthly? 6 monthly.
throw that out to the committee. Any reason why you'd want it every 6 months?
They've only got a 2-year spot, haven't they, 16 to 18-year-olds, and one of them, if we're going to leave it. Just seemed a long time, that was all. Thank you.
Anthony?
I think, Chairman, we're happy to, I think, circulate, a bi-monthly statistical update on the current situation, and perhaps if you want reports, on a 6-monthly basis on just what interventions are being delivered, that might be helpful as well. But we're happy we produce lots of statistics every month anyway, so we can circulate a note on that, and we know Councillor Higgins is interested in that area as well.
Excellent.
And then do a 6-monthly update as well.
Fantastic. Committee agreed? Yep. Thank you very much for that item. Next item on the agenda, as we move to the library strategy, I welcome Councillor Coles to present this item 6, please. Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Coles. Over to you to present the library strategy. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm really delighted to share the exciting new strategy to transform our libraries into vibrant community hubs and libraries over the next 2 years. Our libraries, as we know, are a very welcoming front door of Staffordshire, places where people of all ages can come to read, learn, connect and feel part of something a bit bigger. Over the next 2 years, we're going to accelerate the transformation of libraries into thriving community hubs and libraries. These will be vibrant, welcome spaces at the heart of our communities that bring services and opportunities together under one roof. We recognise many libraries already provided value within our community offers, but we want to enhance this now, and it's to reflect the local needs and address the feedback received in our recent consultation. Our vision is to make community hubs and libraries accessible to all. There are opportunities to make a significant difference by considering factors such as layout, signage, digital provision and furniture. As an example of that, I have talked in many of the council meetings where we've obviously used bespoke furniture, and we're now looking at a model which is more value for money. And anything that is a layout that is opening and welcoming to people. When we reconfigure spaces, we will seek to engage our communities in the design process and to ensure the outcome meets the needs and preferences, and it's not just done by a designer. To give you some examples of that, we have some quick wins. So Wombourne Library Hall and meetings room weren't considered in their redevelopment, so we're working on that piece now. And it's great news to see that Budilf has had an accessible toilet where we reacted within a few months to residents' requests to implement that. So libraries will become inclusive and intergenerational spaces, promoting local talent for exhibitions and performances. That already happens at Burton-on-Trent and a few others, but it's to actually embed that more and embed a much stronger digital presence. We use it to some extent, but it definitely needs upgraded. They will include dedicated areas to support key themes such as wellbeing, business growth and seasonal programming. Over the years, library footfall has fell across the UK. So to achieve the goal of increased community engagement and footfall, we'll adopt a commercial and proactive marketing approach to increase income and footfall. This enables us to protect libraries for the future and to support the County Council priorities. These priorities include cultural and creative enrichment, improving literacy and digital skills, supporting residents to achieve their potential and build stronger, more resilient communities that add value to local economy. In part of our engagement, we ensured that the younger people were included in that with skivvies. And the reason we did that is we know that a lot of the youth clubs and youth opportunities have been removed in all of our communities, and they do disengage at a certain age, so that was a really important part that we've embedded into that. So this strategy sets how we'll transform our library services as one of 20 library services included in Arts Council's England's National Libraries Development Framework. We have a great opportunity to assess our commitment to continuous improvement, and I'm looking forward to working with our officers to bring this vision to life over the next 2 years. I'll now hand over to Catherine and Kelly, who will talk in more detail about the strategy, and we'll be happy to take questions at the end.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Mann. I'm the Assistant Director for Culture, Rural and Safer Communities, and libraries are part of my service areas. So I'm just going to give a little bit more detail if I can move the slides on. Bear with me. And now I've lost my presentation. So big thanks to Councillor Coles for setting out the vision and the context for what we want to achieve as part of the new strategy. I just wanted to give a little bit more information on the sort of work that we're going to do to actually develop and implement this, and then Kerry's going to talk through how we're going to deliver it. The County Council, as you're probably aware, has got 43 libraries and 2 mobile libraries. These deliver our statutory library offer, and at the very heart of our communities, our libraries are absolutely that front door to wider County Council services. They support economic growth, literacy, health and well-being. So building on some really good practice, we've had a really clear political steer to continue to enhance and develop our libraries as community hubs. From October the 28th until the 5th of January, we carried out a 10-week public engagement to really identify and understand what it was that people valued about their library, what they'd like to see more of, and if they didn't use a library, well, then what were the barriers that were stopping them from doing so? We also wanted to find out what it was that people wanted from community hubs. And to ensure we had that feedback from less engaged groups, we commissioned Support Staffordshire and Staffordshire Council for Voluntary Youth Service, so SCIVIes, to carry out some focus groups with a wide range of groups and young people. Support Staffordshire spoke to people from 10 community groups, including small business owners, farming communities, unemployed people, minority ethnic groups, young working age people, refugees and asylum seekers, and adults with a disability. SCIVIes held 10 workshops with young people aged 8 to 18 years and up to 25 years where people had additional needs. 144 people responded, and in addition we promoted the survey to the Voice Project in the electronic school bag and with the groups that we already work with, so the Brownies, the Guides, the Cubs, the Scouts and Duke of Edinburgh, people that are young people that volunteer in our libraries and also our young library staff. In addition to the 2,578 survey responses, library staff also engaged with 428 people during our coffee drop-ins. So you can see on this slide here the key consultation themes that came back from that consultation. People told us that they wanted flexible spaces for community groups to meet and for events and activities to take place, and also opportunities for refreshments. Young people told us that they wanted a dedicated space within the library and more events and activities tailored to their needs. Also, young people asked for a voice to influence the resources and the services provided by their local libraries, which, when you consider that we want to develop our libraries and community hubs to ensure that they're absolutely fit for the future, this is something that we're taking forward as a priority. Listening to Staffordshire residents and our communities is really important, and the consultation feedback has enabled us to recreate our vision for libraries as community hubs. We envisage welcoming, flexible spaces, providing books and resources alongside access to support and information from other organisations and services, together with the opportunity to participate in a wide range of events and activities while building a sense of belonging.
So how are we going to... It's my first time. So how are we going to deliver our library strategy? So we looked at what was coming out of the consultation, and we saw that we've got some emerging priorities. So there are 6 priorities, and so that will develop our 6 work strands. And that will be to deliver our libraries as community hubs, which will provide access to a range of activities and events, and will act as the front door to services, not just for the libraries, but for the council and our wider communities. We will develop our libraries as welcoming, warm spaces with flexible layouts for people to use them and how the communities how they want to use them. will enable people to be signposted and support, and our staff will help people in the communities find the right things that they need to find. We'll co-produce, so we'll co-produce with our community so that our libraries reflect what they want, and we will create a clear marketing strategy and branding that will promote and raise awareness of our buildings and services so that people in our communities know what libraries do. And then we will seek innovative ways to generate income, so that will support our development, so that will future-proof our libraries, and then we'll provide access to digital connectivity and new technologies. Finance. So we're using public money. So our plan is to design our spaces, work with design companies and ensure that the public money is used efficiently, effectively, that we get value for money, and that we really make the library investment money that we've been given, that £5 million of support, go as far as it can, so that it can really support our libraries and support our communities. And then we will look at ways we can generate income so that we can bring that investment back into our libraries. We've got some quick wins. So in January, we started to promote our events and activities through the Alexa device scheme, which we're really pleased about. And those are devices that are in people's homes, and that's promoting our events for people who've got social isolation. As Councillor Cole said, the community asked for an accessible toilet in Biddulph Library because it didn't have one before, and we're really, really pleased to say that we've got that, and that was a really quick turnaround. So that is us listening to our communities and providing where we can the things that they're asking for. And we'll look at how we can support small businesses in our libraries through advertising and allowing them to use the spaces. We're looking at digital screens so that we can provide buzz information, and we're also currently exploring a pilot with Royal Mail and DPD parcel lockers at our libraries so that we can rent out space, but also that our communities then have got those facilities, particularly in areas where those post offices and those drop-off points are dwindling. So this report recommends that the committee promotes and raises awareness of libraries as community hubs, that it identifies potential partners and organisations that may be interested in providing services to our local communities through our libraries and community hubs, and supports our community managed library model of delivery by advocating for the model and encouraging volunteer opportunities amongst residents. And finally, our next steps. So as a reminder, this strategy was agreed by Cabinet in February. So in terms of next steps, we're developing a delivery plan for implementation, and that will include KPIs. And we'll know what good looks like by an increase in visitors, an increase in the number of new partnerships and new services that we can offer, an increase in income, a customer satisfaction rate of good. We've just introduced a passive customer survey that is active in our 16 county council managed libraries, and we're looking to have a rating of good and above for that from our customers. And then we'll establish a pathway for young people to be able to shape our library offer, because young people are the future of our library service and our future service users. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, Kerry, Catherine and Councillor Coles for that report. Just a bit of an overview from me. I think the report was fantastic in terms of the line level detail and also the data that we've got from that 10-week programme. I think that's fantastic to see. So I'd open the floor to any questions from the committee, please. Councillor Baker.
I just have one about engagement and trying to get more people going to the libraries. Is there a leaflet you can print off about activities that we can give out to parishes or a local place where we can go to so we can hand it out, just to try and get, I don't know, a few more people going? Is that something you can do?
So as part of the marketing strategy, that's totally possible. A lot of libraries do that anyway. So that's also why we introduced, we're trialling 10 totem screens at the moment, which will be cost neutral with the buses on it. And then you can actually put the whole events plan on there, so it's very visible. But yeah, if anyone wanted it printed off, most of the time they have that actually in the library as well. But we have looked at also things like the mobile libraries with our next review, where we're going to look at parishes more.
The other thing I'd like to add as well is we do a really comprehensive newsletter that goes out from our library service. What we can do, and we can share it with Jacob so it can be circulated with the committee, is the link to join up to that newsletter, where you then do get that list of events and activities from across the service.
And also, and it's quite serendipitous that it's happened just as we're about to start the strategy, the launch of the new County Council website and our web pages. For the first time, we've got some events listing, so that's going to make it a lot easier as we roll out that marketing, where we can have actual QR codes on the printed leaflets, so people in that location specific can then link straight through to those activities and events. So we're really pleased that that has launched just recently.
Thank you. I'm just thinking of the parish that have like a board, you can pin it on there, the leaflet, whatever it is, and whenever someone comes in for like table tennis or whatever they're doing at the parish, they can take a picture. And that's what I'm getting into here, so thank you for that.
Thanks for that context. Councillor Tagg, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the officers for the outline of this. I think when I see Newcastle Library, I see a lot of what you're talking about already happening there, and I'm sure it's happening in some of the other libraries we've already got, the new libraries that have been improved over the last 10 years or so. And I think what you see at Newcastle Library is all those things happening already, all those engagements with the community, partners, police, county council staff, borough council staff, all working together in the library. I also see flyers and leaflets going around for library services as well. I also see them advertised on Nextdoor, which I think the county council uses very well, that community sort of social media. I see advertising of library services and events across my district anyway, so I'm sure that happens elsewhere. So I think not much new in what I'm hearing in that side of it, but I'm interested in the commercial opportunities bit. Now, it's always a good thing to put in, isn't it? Let's make some money out of commercial opportunities to pay for the library service. But could you give a bit more detail on what those commercial opportunities are likely to be? And also, is there a figure of income that has been set for the next year or the 2 year or however how long this strategy is going to last? So I think that's really, really important. We can pluck obviously ideas out of the air, but I'm sure they've been tried before for commercialising libraries. Just see what's new this time.
Yeah, like the report said, a lot of the libraries do have the community hub aspect. However, when we actually asked people, many people didn't know those events were on. So obviously the marketing hasn't been done in the right way, and this will actually put the full marketing strategy in place. And as for the commercial aspect, I mean, I've raised it before, but in Burton Library, a huge investment went into that. And actually, it's oversubscribed on the evenings. There wasn't actually enough meeting rooms. So we've actually started to map each of them to see what opportunities there are, what is missing. Womborne Library, they had all of the library reinvested, but actually the hall, which is the biggest generation of income, hadn't been upgraded, and when we visited it had got some health and safety issues. So it's actually making sure that it's all done in a very cohesive way. Also the digital screens that have not been done before, where people can advertise. So we've already spoken to obviously the NHS, who already manage some of our community managed libraries, and they would love to put some of their stuff, items on there and advertising on there, local businesses. It's a model that works very well in other places. It just hasn't been used in the way in a community managed library in that regard. And at the end of the day, other councils have been deleting their offer, but we recognise that libraries are the front door, and actually we want to really bolster it. 5 million can only go so far across 43 of them. And obviously the commercial aspect is also the furniture, where we were using bespoke furniture of 11 grand, whereas that could have been £1,000, so that would go further. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I think the other thing to add as well is we do have income targets for all of our libraries, and what we continue to do is to monitor those targets to check that we're meeting them, because that's got a significant impact on sort of balancing our budget for the library service. The largest generator of income that we get across our service currently is hiring meeting rooms or meeting spaces, and it's being able to make those more accessible, so bringing them up to standards so that they're a better standard than they have been. So One in particular requires some investment, but also then promoting that offer so that people are able to see what it is that we can provide through our library, because that meeting room hire space is still very competitive when you consider other spaces that are available. The other thing that we want to introduce, and I recognise that this isn't going to generate a huge amount of money, but it will also improve the offer, is a better refreshment offer for our residents and for our communities using those spaces. People expect it. People often stay in libraries for a whole day and need to then have some sort of refreshment offer. So we're also looking at that to really enhance what it is that we do already.
Councillor Putt.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think one thing we've got to be careful of, though, in particularly the community-managed libraries, which are out in our communities, given the name, is that there are also other community centres, church halls that are providing exactly the same thing with very good high-quality buildings. A lot of those are running on very tight budgets. And I think we may be in some areas a bit over capacity for community meeting rooms, and also those opportunities which you want to get into libraries already happening elsewhere. So there's something to be aware of. We don't want to put small community centres and church halls out of business by putting in a council offer in there, which should really be complementing, not taking them over.
I think the other thing to add as well is we've noticed that the high street is becoming more and more expensive, for example, for coffee shops, and they're all struggling with high rates. So one of the things we have looked at is hotspots where we don't cannibalise other offers on the high street, maybe as a start-up that would like to use the front of the space, or we can agree terms with them for coffee shops, because then that would enable the refreshment offer. And I think the fact that a lot of the offices are oversubscribed, it's a very different offer in the libraries to a village hall, and some of the community managed libraries won't have that ability, so it will be different offers in each one, and that's where we make it targeted to each area.
I think also as well that we want to look to generate income to support our development. At the moment, we rely heavily on grant funding to put on activities. I had an officer today who wants to put on something in the summer. We would have to seek grant funding to deliver that. It's a lot of officer time. We don't know if we'll be successful in receiving the grant funding. So if we can support our libraries to bring in income that can then create that development opportunity, we'll be able to be more responsive to our the communities when they say they want more cultural and arts and activity events. We'll be able to have the income to say, yes, we can do that in our library, where at the moment we have to rely on that grant funding, which can sometimes have a 24-week lead-in time and without success.
Thank you for context and the clarity on that, and the fact that we're commercially aware within our libraries. Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the report. Please summarise, however, with some of these, with the question, I think you've already touched upon, but how will the library strategy, as it's implemented, demonstrably improve outcomes for Staffordshire residents, particularly those who are least engaged or most in need, by ensuring that community hubs genuinely deliver accessible, inclusive and high-quality services? And what clear measures will the Council use to evidence community impact, value for money and equitable access across all districts? Thank you.
I can start with a few examples and then I'll pass it on to the officers. So there are a lot of data streams that we see kind of in cabinet that I see that we haven't reported on before, but the commercial aspect is in there and it's actually going to be monitored. Things like awareness, attendance, footfall are all parts that are measured now, but we'd hope to see that increase. It was a very small 1% increase. And as I say, there's a lot of pressure because less and less people are using it, and that's why the marketing is really key, because they need to understand, you know, the feedback was, I didn't even know these events happened here. so they're not going to be using it. So once you increase your marketing, then hopefully the footfall would increase. But I'll pass that on to Catherine.
So the next step for the library strategy is to develop a really clear delivery plan. As part of that delivery plan, we will be setting ourselves some key performance indicators so that we've got those then that we can measure and we can see what progress we're making. It has taken the library service a long time to recover from COVID in terms of footfall, but I'm really pleased to say that we are seeing a significant improvement, and that comparing this year with last year, I think we're only about 300 visits down overall for the whole year. So that's really positive, because we do want to, as Councillor Coles has said, to market the library service more effectively, so we actually get more people coming in, so we're developing those sort of better outcomes for people that are actually accessing the service. One of the things that we do find, we have a lot of volunteering across our libraries, and the people that do volunteer report some really positive outcomes in terms of how it's supported them, where they might have felt lonely, for example, where it connects them back into that community, if they've moved into the community, if they're recently bereaved. So we capture that data as part of sort of annual reports with our community managed libraries, so that we've got some case studies that really sort of showcases what it is and what difference the library service has made. We also capture where we've shared book start packs, for example, so where packs have gone out to young people, which has got that wider impact on literacy levels. We do, as Councillor Coles has said, we capture a lot of information about libraries. We don't necessarily share it. We could get better at doing that, so that you do know, yes, these are how many people that have used or learnt to use a computer over the last 12 months. These are how many people that have come to our knit and natter sessions, so they're not feeling lonely or isolated. These are how many young children with their parents have come to our baby rounds and round sessions, which we know has got a real impact on sort of early language development and skills like that. So I think what we can do as part of those KPIs, because we capture that internally, don't we, Kerry, in terms of data, we can get better at sort of showing to people what a difference it is that the library service is making as we work through the strategy.
The other thing that is quite different as well is we've worked across cabinets, especially with community safety, so with domestic abuse. We've actually been rolling out a lot more of the leaflets, so it can be used because obviously those people are in those spaces. We're using it more for education as a big piece we're doing now to work with the children and adult care services. So we're looking at how we can use that space better where it hasn't been used before. And QR codes, obviously, you've got the data of how many people have then accessed it. Obviously, we wouldn't have confidential data, but it's using it in the right way to, you know, a lot of council offices have been shut and those services aren't available. We use it to so much, but it's kind of improving that. We're also looking, there has been a couple of hotspots around Staffordshire for antisocial behaviour. So we're going to be working with the police to look at how we make sure we encourage more PCSOs into that space and actually do some proper work streams to really focus on that.
And then just around the social isolation aspect, absolutely it's key. We've seen since COVID, people are becoming socially isolated, and as a result, footfall falls across all sectors. We were really, well, not lucky, but we received funding 2 years ago in Cannock Chase from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. They'd identified 27 locations across the country where social isolation was at its height. And so through that, and we had targeted marketing through that. So Councillor Coles is right, that targeted marketing really does work. We worked with our primary care networks to bring people in who were socially isolated. And what we found is that people, they want simple things. So we have jigsaw puzzles in our libraries, and that sounds like really back to basics, back to, you know, I used to do jigsaws in the 70s and 80s. But if you're socially isolated, being able to do an isolating activity but with people around you brings people into our library. So we've got a lot of learning, a lot of data from that, and we've been able to start a lot of clubs and activities in Cannock Library. And what we've seen is an increase in attendance there, an increase in customer satisfaction, just a general increase in library usage. So we can take that learning around that social isolation to support our other library districts to start implementing things to bring in people who are socially isolated.
Thank you for that, Kerry. Just before we wrap up, was there any quick questions from the committee, please? Councillor Bentley.
We've got a lovely library in Cheadle that I believe runs one of the best ones. Two little things that I think we could tweak. One, all the volunteers park the cars at the rear of it to save parking on the local car park. Whether we could write to the local authority, which is the district, and ask for passes for the volunteers. And then that would keep the car park free for people who needed it because everybody's trying to save £2. That's one. But the main bit that's aggravated me, and this is today. Today we've had a by-election in our town, and we've had it in 2 schools, in 2 porta cabins. Well, one's in a porta cabin, one's in Hall. We had to manipulate the schools so we didn't have to shut the schools for the by-election. So I suggested the library, because there's no better way of getting footfall through a door than an election. And believe it or not, I was told that that library cannot be used for elections. So would it be possible for someone to look at Cheadle Library and ask me if it can be used for elections going forward? Because it's in the perfect spot, next to a car park, in the middle of the high street, in the middle of everything, and apparently it cannot be used for an election. So that's a funding stream as well, isn't it, in a roundabout way, because you get paid for it. Thank you.
Yes, I can explore the parking situation with the
Can I-
Borough Council.
Can I just ask the officers to write to Councillor Bentley on that, please, on that point? Thank you.
And also we have got, we have had elections held in, not elections, polling stations in libraries, so I can explore that. We can't promise that that would happen because that's run by the electoral committee with the council as well. I can certainly explore that.
Councillor Bentley as well, we went up to Cheadle, didn't we? And we met there and we met with the people that run it. And it is a really good library and we're exploring the options. So obviously they've all got that £30,000 that's now been approved for improvements on what they want. We're also looking at if we can open that front space. It will be a little bit more cost, but I think it's maybe the right thing to do because then it's getting us in a good pace for LGR, making sure that everything's fit for purpose. At the end of the day, Staffordshire are the ones that own the libraries across Staffordshire, apart from Stoke, I believe. And it is on my notes. So there's detailed notes for all of my visits to look at things like the car parking. Cannock's got issues with car parking. So we will be going through them. But as you can imagine, we've got quite a few and quite a few visits to go through. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just a note on those libraries. If they're district council, obviously applicable, they're not applicable to the county. So let's just be specific on that, please. Thank you. Okay, just as we wrap up item 6, just wanted to say thank you to the officers and members for their hard work, the reports and the insights into libraries. We've already gone through the recommendations, so thanks for that. Could I please have someone to move the motion, please? Councillor Jones, and second, Bennington. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7, flood risk management strategy. This is an annual update that's come through. So can I ask Councillor Miners, please, to prepare. I invite the members to speak. But please, just a key point here, just on the report, as it's an in-depth report. If there is any additions to the report, can we just have those and presented today rather than go through the whole report? Just from a time perspective, we're against the clock. Still got plenty of opportunity through this session and this item. So over to Councillor Miners to present the additional parts of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to start off by just reminding everybody where the River Trent came from. So the River Trent was formed at the last ice age, about 70,000 years ago, during the Devensian glaciation. The course was finalised when the glaciers diverted the river northwards, creating our modern Trent Valley through meltwater, erosion, sediment deposition. Hence why in Stafford you see a lot of aggregate mines. You see a lot of boulders around the county, a bit of context for people with education about where it came from in the last ice age. It's a very heavy report here, and I am going to ask that Officer Andrew will go through some of the slides, but I'm going to capture it in a couple of things. One is a sort of a recap of the last 11 months of meeting between highways and floods and some interaction there. Some examples of what happened from Storm Goretti on the 8th and 9th of January this year, and also very kindly highlighted the flood risk management team, Staffordshire County Council, of the paper copy that you might see in front of you. Obviously, we don't have time to read all of this, but it's a very useful document, I think, as we talked about today with communication, talking to our parish councils, what we're going to do on the websites and educate people what we're doing, what we're legally advised to do, and where we are in the scope of work. So over the last few months, it's been very busy. I think we were lucky enough to go and see Burton and what's been happening with Burton with the flood defence schemes there. I think that's a very important thing, the redevelopment of Burton. It was very interesting to go down to Cannock. You'll see some pictures here and this presentation of the SUDS and what we're doing on Cannock and how we've remediated the flooding there. We've had a walk around with the Highways Department around Whitgrave and Hopton to talk about numerous things, HS2, flooding, roads, potholes, and various flooding-related issues in those areas. There was a real hands-on, a good help from the flood team when they went down to Tixall in January when there was actually an active flooding. And Section 19, we're going to explain a little bit about what we do to alleviate those things and how we work with the communities. There was disruption to vehicles and schools during that flood. There was a really good trip up to Chemical Lane in Stoke and see how the Environment Agency, Staffordshire County Council, Rivers all work together. As we'll allude to, it's really important to get the teamwork together to make it all work. The Lichfield team are very lucky. They actually do live very closely next to the Environment Agency. There was Aston Lane. In Stone, there was a flooding incident there. An old lady couldn't even move her wheelie bin down the road because of that. They were very quick to work on that, and I went down with the crews, and we walked through and saw the residents there, and that was alleviated, and we got diggers onto the ground there to alleviate the flood there. I'm probably going to ask about a day in the life of what happens in Lichfield when you arrive after Christmas at 7 o'clock in the morning with Storm Goretti, and how actually, in layman's term, they produce this document and what they do. I think that's very important, because when you do visit the Lichfield Highways Depot and Flood team there, as you can see how they're using the software. We're going to come and talk about which software they're using is very important, the GIS software, how they go down and look at the levels of flooding, etc. We're going to talk a little bit about some new things that we're doing with virtual flood wardens and how we can get the community involved to be involved in where the gates and things are flooding up. There's a really good section in here as well about AI and the future technology, how we can move forward with that. And just as of today, the government has, I believe, alluded to a £10.5 billion 10-year grant for the next 10 years, with £830 million in funding that Staffordshire will work through. We're going to talk about the relationships between how our teams work with flooding, and we're even going to talk about how Staffordshire County Council is helping other areas, even as far down south as Walsall, Sandwell, Dudley, etc. Just to allude to, we talked about education schools today. We were out at a school in Uttoxeter talking about waste and how to recycle waste. It's all interactive. We're talking with the geography teachers there today. That was very important. A lot of them didn't know. And when we talk about the www.fairflood.org, as again we said here, a lot of the parish council people, they don't know what it is. So we've got leaflets out there with QR codes to let them know how to report things, what to do when they have a panic or they see something, and, well, who do I contact? So I think they've done that's been a really good push, working with the teams very closely to look at that. And there has been a 22% increase in the number of the work that they actually do for planning applications. So I'll be about another 5 minutes as I just walk you through, if you want to walk through and have a look at, if you've got the printout here, it's very clear. It explains the role of the LLFA, what they do and what they don't do, where to find the information. I think this is important to have a brief for everyone cross-party when they go to the parish councils and see people. I was at a meeting the other day and somebody didn't even know, I mean, they just mentioned that, oh, the council tax is used just to empty my bins, and we had to sort of explain about highways and about how 4% only of the Staffordshire County Council funding is going into highways. So it says where to report flooding, flooding in Staffordshire. We're talking about extreme weather, water-caused blockages. There's a nice map actually of Staffordshire and how it interacts, about the boundaries, about the county boundaries, and how, and you can see the river flowing through Staffordshire, as we do have a very big river flowing through. And it also explains again, of course, who is responsible for the main river and us as responsible for the surface water. There's a good section in here about flood investigation, section 19, how they work through the section 19 when a storm comes through. Again, maybe to say, you know, how they work that through in the morning to alleviate that, right through to the promotion and update from the Staffordshire County Council website to get people up to date and push that out there. Planning, that's really important. Everyone's stressed, I think, these days about number of housing developments and other developments being forced upon people, perhaps in Staffordshire. So there's a good indication on page 21, 22, deep in what we're doing. That community engagement, we talked about that, how to promote the FAIR project and get people involved. We keep telling people, do download the My Staffs app on your phone, which is very useful, where they can find everything in one place. There's the flood alleviation scheme does go into some of the festival court in Cannock, which was, you know, I mean, it was going on in the past, but how they worked through, how they got the grant aid, local levy, and the other projects that are in these 6-year cycles as we're moving forward. The local flood risk management strategy, how that works through for the FAIR project, and how they work with DEFRA, about the Environment Agency. Sometimes people are very stressed because it takes a long time for the Environment Agency to get back when there's a replacement of a bridge in certain places in Staffordshire. The key legislation in the flood risk management, the Acts, the Land Drainage Act, National Policy Framework. It's everything a geography teacher wanted to know in one place here. There's a good article, I think, in the key partners of flood risk management. Again, we've been making sure that everyone's been working through this, even across boards in the Staffordshire Sustainability Board. We're trying to get people this year to look at how they use water and get people educated about water and also environmental crime with waste. It sort of all overlaps with these things. Again, the Canal and River Trust, who to report to. There's been confusion in Staffordshire who actually is in charge of perhaps an area when there is an incident with the flooding on that. Riparian landowners, again, we talked about our county farms, how we work and make sure to understand about the free flow of water. It's very important that we're trying to get water to go in gullies and not put it under through a pipe, which can get blocked. AI and technology, looking at SUDs, looking at the satellites on the developers, landowners, that's a very hot topic, I would say there. And again, parish councils and community flood action groups, we talked again about getting people into libraries, explaining these things, pulling it into some of our schools even perhaps. Earlier today, people talked about Keele University. So we actually made a trip to the low energy park at Keele University. We had a chance to speak to some of the lecturers and professors there as well, and mentioned this and what Staffordshire is doing there. That's a good relationship that we want to keep in Staffordshire for Keele. It was a shame as we left to see one of the small roads near Keele University full of dumped fridges and environmental waste again. This is really, really interesting here, the mapping and asset management tools. When we went to see the team in Lichfield to look at CABCore, it's a GIS software they use, so you can go down and see in real time the level of the water there, whether it's still increasing, what to do, and how to work together for a Section 19. There is some wonderful names here, the Carbon Tech Gully Smart, again, working in a black country using CCTV. There's a slide in here, one of the photos, to show you about that. There was a documentary recently, even on Switzerland, on land movement in mountains. You can see very clearly 4 or 5 centimeters of movement there, and looking to see how the local engineering geology is working for rivers and flooding. Scalgo, surface water modeling platform using hydrological data. Again, we hope a lot of, we were talking about getting people in education to be enthusiastic about these things. I think there should be perhaps a chance to go through and explain what degrees, what courses do to get people into use. There's about 8 softwares and data modeling tools here, Hydrodemaster, Datasphere. Hello Lamppost is one, which is actually going live in May. Digital engagement tool enables two-way communication for where there's certain areas with the flooding. And again, planning and development, the LAFF role for new developments is becoming very stressful to try to work through the communication and what we actually do and are legally advised to do there. What counts as major development, flood zones, consultation roles. And again, we mentioned about we are helping the Black Country service level agreement in Sandwell, Dudley, Walsall, and working even down, if you go down to Lichfield, you can see the map there where they're working with those teams right in the south. Pre-application advice for planners, developers, we have to do that. It was interesting to see this week in Tixall where we said, you know, it is difficult for the Staffordshire County Council. They have to go through and do, to work through the pre-application device. Often if it is rejected, they come back and they might go to appeal and all of the things that might work through. Watercourse consent and scheme development funding. Again, we've just mentioned about what was happening there with DEFRA and how we work through and get the funding. And there's at the back is all of the external links. So anybody in a parish council meeting, they can really go to town on this if they want to. So I'll be quiet now because unfortunately it's 40 slides here, but I do think we're able to move through it reasonably quickly so you're not here till Christmas. That's all for me. If there's any questions.
Just mindful, we've got half an hour for this session, this item, so I would ask if we could ask some questions from the scrutiny panel, but Andrew, happy to give you a couple of minutes to go through those 40 slides. I think we can go through a couple of questions though to start with, please. So opening the floor, please, to the committee. Thank you. Councillor Pendleton.
Hello, thank you for your report and presentation. I was just wondering how consistently are SUDS requirements applied through planning?
I don't know the details of that, but I have to defer to Andrew on that granular detail.
Thank you, Councillor Miners. Thank you for the question. So every planning application that comes through has to have sustainable drainage. So that came in on a new policy from last year. So it was February of 2024. Came into Act this year, around December time. So that sustainable drainage has to be within every application that's brought forward. We are obviously also working with the highways manual as well, so they sort of go hand in hand. So if you look at the new manual, it does talk about surface drainage rather than always putting it down a pipe. We have a hierarchy of drainage that's preferred. So water should generally stay on location where it can. If it can't do that, we look at infiltration. Can it be reused potentially? So it's brown water reuse. Then you'll look at discharge to local watercourses or rivers, and if that's failing, then you start looking at the sewer option. But you will always now see sustainable green, blue urban solutions on developments. And the reason for that is because a site must contain and not discharge more water from that site from pre-development. So what I mean there is if you've got a green open swathe of field, we know how much water will leave that location undeveloped. When it's developed, the same amount has to be applied. So you have to look at, generally speaking, 5 litres per hectare within Staffordshire of discharge.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other questions? Councillor Beardmore.
Thank you. My question really is about the statutory consultees on the planning. I've been involved with one myself this week. I've copied Andrew into some details that I needed information on. But I just wondered how you use any community intelligence for responses to these statutory consultees, to the local planning authorities. I just wondered if you do actually use any, you know, community information that you get, or is it just a standard response or information that you pick up online from somewhere?
I think I will give an example of how that actually works, because there has been a 22% increase over the last few years about that. So perhaps, Andrew, you can allude into a case study, how it's getting better, getting worse, the number of challenges that you face.
Thank you, Councillor Miners. So as Andrew highlighted, there has been a 22% increase of planning applications coming through to the team in the last 6 years. So it is challenging, but what I use as analogy is the low-hanging, easy fruit locations have been done. We're now getting to the very more critical, challenging areas that are wanting to be developed. So as you rightly ask, it is very important to consider the local, natural and community comments that may come through. So on all planning applications, which is obviously run by the LPA, so that's a district level, communities and members of the public do have a right to comment. They are reviewed, but not just on that, we hold our own flood risk data. So as Councillor Miners mentioned, we have a lot of new technologies that allows us to actually see what the impacts of surface water runoff and local river discharge might have from a development. We use systems such as the Environment Agency's surface water risk mapping. So that's their new NAFRA mapping that was updated last year. It's a lot more detailed. I won't go into the science of it, but it gives you a 50 centimetre LiDAR accuracy. We also use a system called ScaleGo. What ScaleGo is a live modelling system that we can now do in-house. So again, that's a new item of software we've managed to use. We're the only council, I will say, in the West Midlands that use this. You know, we are very innovative on that. We have taken that forward and we're using that system. We can mimic what a development would look like on that land and see if it also has the same characteristics that we're receiving from the community. Our CADCOP, our GIS system, has every single hotspot that's been recorded via highways flooding and reported flooding from communities. So if we know there's been internal flooding or external flooding that's come from a questionnaire, that is plotted. All of our Section 19s are also plotted on this system. So we can start seeing an overall picture. I know this is obvious, and I'm sorry for saying it, but water doesn't just stop at a boundary. You know, water is simple in the respect that it comes from high ground to low ground, but it doesn't just stop there. We need to understand how it actually infiltrates into the ground. So what's the ground being made up of? So again, the systems we can look at to see what the local agricultural ground is and what stone and soils mixture might have an effect. And then that's looked into our response. What we have to do is obviously take a development application on face. So if they're saying this is what the model suggests, we would look at it and in comparison. But as I said, all local communities have a right to comment on an LPA's website for the application.
Thank you, Andrew. Any further questions from the committee, please? Councillor Bentley.
I've got a planning application I'm dealing with at the moment, and it just says Environment Agency refer to standard advice. So is that, you've looked, I don't know, is that similar to what Sue's saying? It just says, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I think I'll defer again to say what is the procedure when it comes through, how they work through, and how long it takes to come in and out when a planning application comes through, whether it be houses, whether it be for solar farms, whether it be for battery energy storage systems or industrial units or roads, how that links in regards of is this a safe area or not, to put developments for risk of flooding and therefore damage to either households or people as that water is diverted in the course further down.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. So what you would have seen there is the Environment Agency standard advice. Now, what they would say on that, I don't know the application you're referring to, but if it's not next to a river, they will always state, so they're a statutory consultee like we are, and they would say standard advice, and that standard advice is available for a developer to look at. If it's not next to a river, they will not be consulted because it's not within a flood zone. So that's why you would have that standard advice there. We don't have a standard advice that we will always say. What we'll say is refer to our policy, our sustainable drainage policy. You should also look at the national policy guidelines, but I can assure you that every single development that's come to us, you will not see a single word on each one that's the same. They are literally, it's not bespoke, but it's written specifically for that development that's come forward, because every site is different with flood risk. As I said, water doesn't just go one way, and it has different aspects per site that's developed.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Bentley.
We, in where my town is, we've got a waste recycling centre, so it's a slightly different topic than water. And we have an increase in fly tipping. And what we've found is it's when the commercial people turn up and for whatever reason they aren't allowed onto the tip. Not all the time. Sometimes they don't want to take it home with them. We can work the rest out. I was wondering if we give body cams to the workforce, like you see the road guys have got. So when they looked in the back of the van, they literally got a photograph of what was in that van that they've turned around. So this week I've had I don't know, quite a bit of carpet dropped and they've just down the lane from the waste recycling centre. So chances are they've been to the waste recycling centre, couldn't go in, and then dumped it on the way back. So I was just wondering if we could come up with some sort of idea on the cameras, like you've got on your grids, put in the waste recycling centre, so we've got the number plates, because it's literally happening the same day, or if the site's shut. So the cars are actually going outside the gate, so it might be something to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, we are looking at another portfolio for the community safety strategy and also the environmental policy. We've brought up in Staffordshire Sustainability Board environmental crime as a highlight this year. It is happening. It is a big risk for there's there's £1 billion worth of trade, I believe, in illegal waste, whether it be going into warehouses, whether it be small stuff going into side lanes, etc. And again, we want to make sure that they're not going to, for flooding, they're not going to drop it in gullies and things which aren't going to flood, which is where we think we would be putting the cameras in regards flooding, whether that would be cross-looped into looking for people on the environmental crime side and how that works. There's still a proposal coming out for that. So we realise it's big, we want to address it, and it's not only Staffordshire County Council, it's Borough Council, because we end up having to take it away, they pick it up, this sort of thing. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Councillor Miners and Bentley. Okay, to wrap up, I just think an excellent flood risk management team guide, including the tools, really super helpful, I've got to say. Wish I had this last year as a councillor, real good in terms of both educational for councillors, residents, and also ways of working for the legislation and key processes. I recommend that the committee receive an annual report update on obviously the flood risk management and also support the progress accompanying work that continues as part of the Fair Flood Aware Informed Resilient project. Can I ask someone to move this motion? Councillor Jones. And second, Councillor Baker.
I just have one comment. Could we have the Andrew's presentation outside the committee maybe, because I'm interested in what's on the 40 pages. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great call. Yeah. And we would invite you back to present that to the Scrutiny Committee, please, in the next 3 months.
Probably better in like not a formal meeting again, because we do.
Okay, yeah, we could do that outside in a training session. I think it would be really beneficial for all councillors to be able to hear that presentation. Sorry we didn't have time today to go through that.
Yeah, I would encourage if it's over Teams, whatever. I know the challenge is his team is super busy, but if people have a 15 to 20, 30-minute window to go down to that Lichfield operational room and have a look at that.
Yeah.
Maybe in the summer as it's less busy or less flooding, but please don't visit. When I did, when I think all the gritters were in there and everyone was really super busy. But it's nice when you go and see a working team and you know they're super on top of it mostly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Andrew?
I'll just add, so if you do happen to have a copy of this, so what this is actually a welcome booklet. This is so hot off the press, the team actually finished a draft for me to review this morning.
Brilliant, yeah.
And it's an insight to exactly who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
I will happily, once I've managed to get my eyes over it in the next couple of days, I will send you a PDF version of it to every council, because
that's fantastic.
What we've realised is, and I don't mean this in any way, there's obviously been a lot of change of councillors and officers coming in, being asked the same question every day. Well, what do you do? Who you are? I went, you know what? I'm losing my voice. So I set a few in the office a challenge to create a booklet, and they've done it. And I think it's really good, you know, so it's going to be made available. It'll be a live document, you can see it. And plus, as you rightly say, my 40-page slide, which I knew was going to not happen. But, yeah, you're more than welcome to come and visit the depot and see what we do. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I think an educational training session on it would be most welcome from all of us at this county.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for all members, it would be
absolutely
useful for all members. This would be to go over.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for the report and coming along to the committee today. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 8, the work programme, and I'll invite Jacob to provide an update on the work programme report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the tail end of that, it's worth pointing out on the work programme, a site visit to Lichfield Highways Depot has been sitting there for some time now. So in terms of an educational visit, however you want to phrase it, it may be worth trying to combine the two as a suggestion, but that's a conversation I'll go away and have with yourself.
Yeah, we can add
Chair,
that to the recommendations.
And with Andrew. In terms of the work programme update, I won't go through everyone because there's been quite a few since the February meeting, but most of them pertain to the fact that the meeting at the end of March / start of April was cancelled. So a lot of that is a reflection of those items moving over into this meeting and some moving over to the next municipal year. The key ones that I'd perhaps highlight that are new to the work programme is the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, which will be considered in the next municipal year. You've also got the local nature recovery strategy, which will be considered in tandem with the natural environment strategy and biodiversity reports. There is a briefing outside of committee scheduled for the 5th of May with National Highways. In addition to that, post-16 EHCP provision has been agreed as a work programme for the next municipal year. And in addition, both the renewable energy policy position and the county farms policy statement will be added to the provisional work programme for the next municipal year. It's probably worth pointing out as well that, as I mentioned previously, the meeting was cancelled at the end of March, April, and the date of the next meeting, which I won't mention next, will be a work programme planning session. It would be remiss of me not to point out the fact that this is actually my last meeting as a Scrutiny and Support Officer for this committee. You will receive further details regarding officer arrangements in due course, but I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish all the members of the committee all the very best for the future.
And I just want to say, absolutely, it's great to see myself ramp up to this role so quickly, and that's part and parcel of what you've done with me over the last 3 months. And from myself and on the entire committee, your dedication, thorough organisation, and the way that you present yourself professionally has really put us in good stead. So thank you so much, and congratulations and good luck on your next chapter. Thank you very much. Just closing out the meeting. The date of the next meeting is on Thursday, the 25th of June, 2026 at 10 a.m. at the County Buildings at Stafford. As there is no exclusion of the public required today, I'd like to thank members, officers and the committee members for a highly focused session today, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.